Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Nomination day activities now underway. Assessments to begin to determine the cost of damage in the aftermath of Tropical Storm Rafael. And later in sports, West Indies and England to meet in ODI series decider in Barbados today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carrie Simpson. Here are the details. In the aftermath of the passage of Tropical Storm Rafael, assessments will begin to determine the cost on the public purse. Works Minister Robert Morgan says that teams from the National Works Agency NWA will be in the field today. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, however, suggests that estimates could run in the billions.
We are not yet in a position to give definitive figures as to the damage assessment and what it will cost. Our figures are preliminary, but we expect them to be in the wide region of between $500 million to $1 billion.
He says repairs will be financed by the government.
We have created fiscal buffers that are what we have used to support our response to disasters. And we have developed the National Natural Disaster Risk Financing Mechanism. And what that is we have made budgetary allocations to create buffers, which we have put into a contingency fund. That fund is approximately about 5 billion Jamaican dollars. And we use that to respond to disasters as they occur.
Meanwhile, in addition to damaged roads, several landslides have been reported.
The general appraisal, we had about 15 roads blocked totally, 10 flooded. Minor road damage was about 2. We had about 7 single lane situations where there was only single lane access. And major, we had about 2 totally impassable roads. The approach of the National Works Agency whenever we have challenges like this is the first objective is to create access. And that is usually single lane access, which will give the opportunity of emergency services and residents in general to exit. The longer term problem is that there are some areas, for example in East Rural, where we have had major landslides, which has essentially destroyed roads. We all saw one on television where the entire community has been cut off. That is going to take some time to repair.
The government says it is looking to make amendments to current laws to increase penalties for criminals involved in mass shootings. The revelation, which was made at today's post-cabinet press briefing, follows several recent shooting incidents. Amoy Harriet tells us more.
106 Jamaicans have been killed in multiple shooting incidents since the start of the year. That's 106 killed in either a double, triple, or quadruple murder. The government says this figure is an improvement compared to last year, but it's arguable whether or not the families of those 106 victims are comforted by this fact. As for the perpetrators,
these persons are not ordinary criminals. They are your worst kind and should be pursued with extreme prejudice.
It's why Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government will be implementing legislation specifically for perpetrators of mass shootings.
I believe that the police should start to look at these kinds of shootings and seek to prosecute along those lines. Again, that would be a kind of direction that we have given to the police. In other words, we need to start treating these incidents as criminal terrorism.
Now, the current law gives some account for such actions under the Offences Against the Person Act. A person who is convicted of murder, especially one that appears to be calculated, can face life imprisonment or the death penalty. But the Prime Minister says a more targeted approach is needed.
We are examining the legislation to see how we can craft specific laws around that, or whether or not we actually have legislation that can be used together to create that impact.
In the meantime, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang says significant progress has been made in the investigations into recent mass shootings, particularly the Cherry Tree Lane, Pleasant Heights, and Bowen Road incidents.
Despite the complexity of these cases, we are making significant progress. In the Cherry Tree Lane incident, we have arrested and charged 2 individuals linked to the gang and seized an illegal firearm. 2 suspects linked to the incident, one of whom was positively identified as a shooter, are fatally shot when they challenged the members of the police force as they sought to apprehend them. The remaining members of the gang are being pursued to be brought to justice. We understand the gravity of the situation and are treating each incident with the utmost priority.
Amoy Harriet, TVJ News.
To news now in politics, nomination day activities have begun in the 2 constituencies and 2 electoral divisions. Our coverage begins in South Trelawney, where former MP Marissa Dalrymple-Philibert will make a political comeback. Our reporter Kimberly Petty is at the nomination center and filed this report.
Thanks, Kerry. We're here in Albert Town, where JLP supporters have been gathering from as early as 7 a.m. In fact, it's a party-like atmosphere here as JLP supporters prepare to usher in their candidate, Marissa Dalrymple-Philibert. Now, if you would recall, she resigned as Member of Parliament last year following a damning Integrity Commission's report. Well, moments from now, she will be taking her first step back to Gordon House as Member of Parliament. Independent candidate Lloyd Gillings will also be nominated today to contest the by-election in November. So far, there hasn't been much movement. The police are here, the military are here, as well as members of the Electoral Office of Jamaica. For now, it's back to you in studio.
Thanks, Kimberly. And our reporter Dwayne Anderson is in the Annan Town Division in Clarendon.
Slow going so far here in the Annan Town Division in northern Clarendon. Right now I'm actually in James Hill, which is a part of the Annan Town Division up here in Clarendon. For persons who are familiar with the parish, it's a really deep rural part of the parish. But slow going so far, as I mentioned. In fact, I've seen more police officers. You can see a few of them behind me. I've seen more police officers than I've seen supporters of either party so far since I've been here this morning. And they're just here trying to ensure that things remain safe, things remain peaceful. Obviously, there was a lot of rainfall over the last 2 days linked to the tropical storm. Since we've been here, it has been slightly overcast with a little bit of sprinkling of rain. So it is interesting to watch how that sort of weather will impact on any potential turnout here today. Because persons who are familiar with this sort of political process in Jamaica will know that these nomination day events are all about a show of strength, a show of numbers, who can bring out more supporters to, rally up their base and get excited ahead of the vote in a couple of weeks from now. Since I've been here, I've not seen a lot of supporters from either party, but we do expect that they will nominate a candidate here. I spoke to Glasswell Brown, the director of elections, I beg your pardon, here in Jamaica, and he indicated that the parties will nominate their candidates around 12:30 and 1:30 here in the division.
We don't have a fixed number on that. Anybody can turn up, so we don't put up a number on that. We are aware that for the municipalities, 2 main political parties will be contesting those elections.
I'll be here all day. I'll be monitoring what's happening, and I'll be sure to share whatever is newsworthy with you guys. It's back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Dwayne, for that update. Now, over in the St. Andrew Northwestern constituency, at least 2 former PNP candidates have decided to run on an independent ticket as nomination day gets underway. Kalisha Williams is on the ground.
So it's nomination day in the Northwestern St. Andrew constituency, and I'm outside the Pembroke Hall Restorative Justice Center. So far, 2 candidates have been nominated. Around 10:15 this morning, former PNP representative, now independent, Rohan Banks, was nominated. And just a few minutes ago, I caught up with former People's National Party Member of Parliament as well, and former Speaker of the House, Carl Marshall, who is now independent and is making a return to politics. And this is what he had to say.
And we do apologize for that technical glitch. It's now time for a break. Stay with us. More local stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. To more Nomination Day news, in St. Thomas, the Jamaica Labour Party's Winston Downey will be the first to be nominated in the Morant Bay division. That should take place sometime after 12, while the PNP's Rosemary Shaw will be nominated at 1 p.m. Now, that seat was left vacant following the death of the PNP councillor Rowan Bryan in April. To news overseas, world leaders congratulated Republican Donald Trump on Wednesday after he won the U.S. presidential election, capping a stunning political comeback 4 years after he left the White House. Now, Kamala Harris is yet to concede or address supporters. More from the CNN.
Please welcome President-elect Donald J. Trump.
Former President Donald Trump, now projected president-elect, is the second person in U.S. history with 2 non-consecutive terms as commander-in-chief. It was a win he started celebrating earlier with supporters.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
And he'll have a Republican Senate with him after the GOP secured enough seats to take control of that chamber. Vice President Kamala Harris watched the results come in with family, friends, and hundreds of supporters at her alma mater, Howard University.
So you won't hear from the vice president tonight?
Her campaign co-chair telling the crowd late Tuesday the vice president is expected to speak publicly later today. A source close to the campaign told CNN just hours ago Harris's team is processing its strengths and weaknesses. President-elect Donald Trump giving his preview of a second term.
I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Director of Corporate Communications at JPS, Winsome Callum, says the company learned several lessons from Hurricane Beryl and will not be repeating some mistakes made prior to the passage of the July 3 storm. She says a rapid response team has been established to restore power as quickly as possible after an outage once weather conditions permit. JPS says reports have so far indicated few outages due to the passage of Tropical Storm Rafael on Tuesday. Further afield, the artificial intelligence software company NVIDIA has surpassed Apple in a tech shakeup, with its market capitalization growing by nearly 3%. It now has a $3.43 trillion market capitalization. NVIDIA shares have nearly tripled so far in 2024. The company saw explosive growth in 2023 when it emerged as the primary source of the graphics processing units used in the computers that power AI operations. The chip maker will join the Blue Chip Index before the market opens on Friday. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Janella Precious.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In this evening's health report, we look at flood and diseases.
During the event, there is a risk of moving water. We say water 6 inches high that's moving is enough to knock down a human being. 12 inches high, it's enough to move a vehicle. So we tend to be fooled by the height of the water, but moving water carries a significant force. So you want to stay away from any flood waters during the event. After the event, settled water, you don't know what's beneath it in terms of debris, the risk of getting injured, and the risk of getting diseases, skin diseases, fungal diseases, bacterial infections of the skin.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Avoid direct contact with flooded water. Wear rubber gloves, masks, and eye protection when handling flooded water. Do not drink or cook with flooded water. And clean and disinfect surfaces and objects that have come in contact with flooded water.
And we go back to a previous story in the St. Andrew North constituency, that's Northwestern constituency, where at least 2 former PNP candidates have decided to run on an independent ticket as nomination day gets underway. Our reporter, Kelisha Williams, is on the ground.
So it's nomination day in the Northwestern St. Andrew constituency, and I'm outside the Pembroke Hall Restorative Justice Center. So far, 2 candidates have been nominated. Around 10:15 this morning, former PNP representative, now independent, Rohan Banks, was nominated. And just a few minutes ago, I caught up with former People's National Party Member of Parliament as well, and former Speaker of the House, Carl Marshall, who is now independent and is making a return to politics. And this is what he had to say.
I'm not a part of any party for this exercise because I'm a member of the People's National Party, but the party is not contesting the election. I have come forward because I believe I'm a teacher. I've spent almost all my life teaching, and I believe that education can make a difference in this country. I'm 82 years old. Shall I just leave this earth without doing something more?
As you would know, this constituency became vacant following the departure of Dr. Nigel Clark in late October as he left the country for the International Monetary Fund. The Jamaica Labour Party's candidate for this constituency now is Dwayne Smith, and I was told he will be nominated around 1 o'clock today. I'll be on the ground for all of that, and I'll have more updates in subsequent newscasts. Reporting from St. Andrew, I'm Kelisha Williams for TVJ News.
Thank you, Kelisha. Now we head to another break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.